A soaked elderly man suddenly collapsed onto the edge of a busy sidewalk while dozens of people hurried past without slowing down, shielding themselves from the pouring daytime rain as though his trembling hands and desperate eyes belonged to another world. A young single mother, already running late for work with barely enough money to keep food on the table, stopped in the middle of the storm, looked at the exhausted stranger, and made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still matter in this world, please like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us humanity is never truly lost. Marissa Cole had learned long ago that life rarely offered easy choices. At 32, she was raising her 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, alone after losing her husband to a sudden heart condition several years earlier. Every paycheck disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. Rent, groceries, school supplies, and medical bills had turned every dollar into something precious. Even so, she refused to let hardship make her bitter. Hazel often said that her mother carried sunshine inside her even when the sky was gray, and on that rainy afternoon those words quietly proved themselves true. The old man struggled to stand, leaning heavily on a worn wooden cane that looked nearly as tired as he did. His coat was soaked through, his shoes were damaged, and every step seemed painfully uncertain. Many passing drivers splashed water across the curb without noticing him. Marissa watched the growing crowd carefully avoiding eye contact, each person convincing themselves someone else would help. She could have done the same. She desperately needed to get back on schedule before losing another day's wages. Instead, compassion outweighed convenience. She rushed toward him, opened the passenger door of her aging sedan, and gently supported his shoulders before he lost his balance again. She quietly assured him that he did not have to keep walking in weather like this. Hazel, sitting in the back seat after an early school dismissal, smiled warmly and handed the old man the dry towel she always kept for rainy days. The simple gesture filled the vehicle with a feeling of unexpected family. The elderly stranger introduced himself as Arthur Bennett. His voice carried dignity despite obvious exhaustion. He explained that his umbrella had broken, his phone battery had died, and he had insisted on walking home after leaving a nearby medical clinic because he disliked asking anyone for help. Pride had carried him farther than strength ever could. Marissa drove slowly through familiar neighborhoods while Arthur quietly gave directions. During the short ride he noticed the faded children's drawings taped to the dashboard, the repaired tiers in the seats, and the careful way Marissa stretched every drop of gasoline by avoiding unnecessary turns. Without asking personal questions, he understood she was carrying invisible burdens far heavier than his own. Arthur lived in a modest brick house tucked behind large maple trees. It looked comfortable but strangely lonely. Before stepping out, he reached into his pocket searching for money to repay her for the ride. Marissa gently refused. She explained that kindness should never come with a price tag. Arthur's eyes filled with tears he tried unsuccessfully to hide. He simply thanked both mother and daughter with a sincerity that lingered long after they drove away. Marissa returned to her routine believing she would never see him again. Life continued pressing against her from every direction. The next morning, while organizing shelves at the small neighborhood grocery store where she worked, her manager unexpectedly informed her that someone important had arrived asking specifically for her. Assuming it involved a customer complaint, she nervously walked toward the front entrance. Waiting there stood Arthur, dressed neatly in a clean navy coat, accompanied by a well-dressed woman carrying a leather folder. Marissa barely recognized him. His posture seemed stronger, his smile brighter, and the sadness that had clouded his face the previous day had softened into quiet gratitude. The woman introduced herself as Eleanor Pierce, Arthur's longtime attorney and family advisor. Marissa immediately felt uncomfortable. She worried Arthur had returned to insist on paying for the ride she had already forgotten. Instead, Eleanor calmly explained something completely unexpected. Arthur had once founded a successful regional construction company decades earlier before retiring. Though financially comfortable, he had gradually withdrawn from society after losing both his wife and his only son within a few years of each other. Wealth had surrounded him, yet loneliness had become his closest companion. For years he had quietly supported charities through donations but rarely trusted anyone enough to become personally involved again. Arthur admitted that what affected him most the previous afternoon was not the ride itself but the complete absence of hesitation. Marissa had seen a stranger soaked by the rain and treated him as though he mattered. Hazel had smiled without fear or judgment. Neither of them had asked whether helping would benefit them. That simple act shattered years of emotional isolation he had built around himself. Arthur invited Marissa and Hazel to visit his home later that afternoon. Unsure of his intentions but sensing genuine kindness, they accepted. They found shelves filled with old family photographs, books, woodworking projects, and memories preserved inside quiet rooms. Arthur showed Hazel a workshop where he once built handmade toys for neighborhood children. Dust covered every table because he had stopped creating anything after his family's losses. Hazel innocently asked why beautiful things should remain unfinished simply because someone felt sad. The question landed gently but powerfully. Arthur stood silently for several moments before smiling for what seemed like the first truly joyful time in years. Over the following weeks an unlikely friendship blossomed. Arthur began teaching Hazel woodworking while Marissa helped organize neglected paperwork and encouraged him to reconnect with former friends. She never accepted expensive gifts despite Arthur's repeated offers. She wanted friendship, not charity. That honesty only deepened his respect for her. Not everyone welcomed the growing bond. Arthur's distant nephew, Gregory Sloane, had assumed he would eventually inherit most of Arthur's estate. After discovering Arthur spent time with Marissa and Hazel, Gregory spread ugly rumors throughout the community, claiming the struggling single mother was manipulating a lonely old man for financial gain. Whispered gossip spread quickly, reaching neighbors, co-workers, and eventually Hazel's school. The accusations wounded Marissa deeply. She considered ending all contact with Arthur to protect her daughter's reputation. She knew how easily kindness could be twisted into suspicion. Arthur, however, refused to let lies destroy something genuine. He publicly attended a community fundraiser where Marissa volunteered every year, standing proudly beside her while praising her generosity before local business owners, teachers, and families. He explained that true character revealed itself through actions performed when nobody expected recognition. The truth slowly replaced the rumors. Several people stepped forward sharing stories of Marissa quietly helping elderly neighbors, delivering groceries to struggling families, and volunteering at school events despite her exhausting work schedule. Gregory's bitterness became painfully obvious, while Marissa's integrity shone brighter than ever. Months later Arthur announced the creation of a community foundation honoring his late wife and son. Instead of simply distributing money, the foundation would provide emergency transportation, childcare assistance, and small grants for single parents facing temporary hardship. Arthur asked Marissa to help oversee the program because she understood real struggles better than anyone sitting in expensive boardrooms. She accepted only after insisting every decision remain transparent and focused on serving others. The foundation quickly transformed countless lives. Parents kept jobs because reliable childcare became available. Elderly residents received transportation to medical appointments. Children received school supplies without embarrassment. Volunteers multiplied because hope proved contagious. Arthur often said the foundation had not begun with millions of dollars. It had begun with one old man standing in the rain and one woman refusing to walk away. As the seasons changed, Arthur's workshop echoed with laughter again. Hazel learned to craft small wooden birds that the foundation gifted to families experiencing loss, each one carrying a handwritten reminder that broken hearts could still build beautiful futures. Marissa discovered that accepting friendship was not weakness but another form of courage. Arthur rediscovered purpose not by giving away wealth but by sharing his time, wisdom, and love. Before this story comes to its close, leave a meaningful comment sharing the greatest act of kindness you have ever received or the moment someone restored your faith in humanity. Your words may become the encouragement another person desperately needs today. On the first anniversary of that unforgettable rainy afternoon, the community gathered outside the foundation's new center beneath bright daytime skies. Children played across the lawn while volunteers welcomed families from every corner of town. Arthur presented Marissa and Hazel with a simple framed photograph taken the day the center opened. Beneath it rested a handwritten sentence that perfectly captured everything their journey had become. The shortest ride of his life had carried him all the way back home, because home had never been a building, but the feeling of being seen, valued, and loved again. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that the smallest act of compassion, offered without expecting anything in return, can become the beginning of someone else's miracle, and sometimes our own.